Ogenbe. Mr. President, I am from Kogi Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on 2018 appropriation bill. This bill is tagged Budget of Consolidation. It is said to be targeted at consolidating the previous achievement of the budget. Mr. President, I am bothered about this budget of 8.612 trillion naira, which has given no attention to the steel sector, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this is a sector that have the potential of creating 3 million jobs. Mr. President, this is a sector that can save this country $4 billion from importation of steel products. Mr. President, this sector has the capability of revamping the economy of this nation. Mr. President, after producing the budget of 2018, to my surprise, Mr. President, 354 million naira was budgeted for capital expenditure for Ajeokuta Steel Company. Mr. President, with due respect to the people that prepared this budget estimate, I don't know what they think 354 million naira is going to do for Ajeokuta, a place like Ajeokuta. What kind of infrastructural development did they expect 350 million to provide for the people in Ajeokuta? Mr. President, the road in Ajeokuta is so dilapidated that it's not motorable at all. This country, Mr. President, we are not ready to create jobs. We are not ready to move this country forward, especially in the steel sector, Mr. President. If you are calling an investor to come and invest in Ajeokuta Steel, and there's no basic facilities, infrastructural facilities on ground, Mr. President, that is going to be very discouraging to the investor that you are seeking to come and invest in your area. Mr. President, Ajeokuta Steel was intentionally branded obsolete and moribund, and that it should be abandoned. Mr. President, that is not true. The technical audit report have shown that notwithstanding the long years of partial operation of the steel plant, the technical readiness already achieved has not diminished, as preservation of equipment and facilities are constantly undertaken, Mr. President. To continually say that Ajeokuta Steel is obsolete and moribund, Mr. President, is like a case of giving a dog a bad name so that you can hang it. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Ajeokuta is of 3 phases. The first phase is 1.2 million tons per year. The second phase is 2.3 million tons, and the third phase is 5.2 million tons, respectively. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, we are still at the stage of 1.2 million, which is the first phase. And Mr. President, as of today, as I speak to you, this first phase has been completed up to 98%. All that this country needs and this administration needs, Mr. President, is to have the political zeal to complete the remaining 2% so that Ajeokuta can start operating. Mr. President, we have been going in and out. You see the ministers going up and down the National Assembly with files, and instead of them to tell Mr. President and this present government the truth about Ajeokuta, because there are so many problems in this country that Ajeokuta can easily take care of, Mr. President. It's only 2%. Other prior administration has completed up to 98%. All that is needed for we to say that Ajeokuta first phase is going to be producing steel is only 2%. So I want to appeal to the federal government to take note of this. It's only 2% that is needed to complete Ajeokuta first phase. Mr. President, the total world crude steel production presently stands at 1.5 billion tons. Mr. President, out of this 1.5 billion, 70% of this 1.5 billion tons is produced through the basic oxygen furnace technology. Mr. President, is popularly known as blast furnace. This technology is what we have in Ajeokuta laying fallow at this point. Mr. President, for somebody to come and say that Ajeokuta is obsolete and moribund, Mr. President, that is a complete baloney. Meanwhile, I'd like to thank the federal government for being up to date in the budget.
It's time, Mr. Roundup.
For a current expenditure while doing this, Mr. President, basic infrastructural facilities, I think it needs to be on ground to complement the effort that they are doing. Before I conclude, Mr. President, I'd like to take you back to the presidential campaign of Mr. President prior to the 2015 election, where the country was promised, if I'm not mistaken, 3 million jobs in the very first year. Mr. President, as much as the president of this country intends to do good for this nation, 3 million jobs as of today was never created. But Mr. President, I would like to say this categorically, that 3 million job is sitting right there in Ajeokuta if Mr. President and this government has the political will and zeal to complete Ajeokuta, the remaining 2%. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator.